He didn't leave yesterday. He left long before that. You just didn't know yet. And that's what hurts the most. The last message wasn't the end. It was the confirmation of something your body already felt, but your heart refused to accept. You didn't just lose a relationship. You lost your ground. You lost the plan. You lost the version of the future that kept you breathing. Now the silence screams. The house echoes absence. The mirror feels unfamiliar. Who is that woman staring back? You say you want to move on, but where does someone go when her identity was built around another person? Maybe this isn't just rejection. Maybe it's collapse. When love walks away and takes you with it. You think you're suffering because of love, but maybe you're suffering because of identity. The pain feels romantic, but it's structural. It's not just missing someone. It's disorientation. It's losing your center, and that's terrifying. Napoleon Hill taught something uncomfortable. When you hand someone your entire emotional direction, you hand them your purpose too. You start living around that person. Your decisions go through them. Your dreams require them. Even your joy depends on them. And that feels like love, but it's fusion. Without noticing, you replaced me with we. Your future became plural. Your plans became dependent. Your light became reflective. You measured yourself by his response, by his mood, by his approval. And it happened slowly. When he left, it wasn't just his body that walked away. It was the center. It was the reference point. It was your emotional compass. You didn't know where to go because you hadn't walked alone in a long time. And the ground disappeared. That's why it hurts so much. This isn't just rejection. It's internal collapse. You feel like you failed, like you weren't enough, like you lost something irreplaceable. But maybe what broke was already unstable. Hill spoke about definite purpose, about having your own vision, about building solid identity. He said no one can sustain you if you don't sustain yourself. But nobody teaches that at the beginning. You learn it in the fall, in the silence that remains. Loneliness then feels like a threat, because without someone beside you, you must face yourself. No distraction, no applause, no external mirror. And that's uncomfortable, almost frightening. You start asking, who am I without him? What do I want now? What still makes sense? And those questions feel dangerous because they dismantle illusions. They expose dependence. They expose emptiness. But here is the hidden relief. You are not weak. You are unstructured. And structure can be rebuilt. You did not lose value. You lost direction. And direction can be found again, if you choose. Because maybe this pain is not the end of a story. Maybe it's the end of dependence. Maybe it's the beginning of autonomy. Maybe God is allowing everything to fall apart so you can discover who you are when you're alone. And that changes everything. This wasn't the first time, and you know it. Different faces, same pain, intense promises, cold endings, deep devotion, silence in the end. You say it was bad luck, that you chose wrong, that he changed, that you believed too much, but there's something deeper. Something repeated, something automatic, something invisible. You feel drawn to distance, to mystery, to men who hold back, and that's not random. It feels familiar. It feels known, almost comfortable, even while hurting. You call it chemistry, but it may be old hunger. You call it intensity, but it may be anxiety. You call it love, but it may be fear of being alone. And fear chooses quietly, before reason wakes up. So you give too much, explain too much, wait too long, tolerate too much, accept emotional crumbs, translate coldness as a phase, confuse absence with depth, and convince yourself to stay. Because deep down, there is a hidden belief. If I love enough, he stays. If I improve, he changes. If I insist, it works. But that's not love. It's control. It's abandonment fear in disguise. And when it ends, you promise it'll be different. Promise you won't give so much. Promise you'll be stronger. But next time, the same type appears. The same script begins. And you already know the ending. This didn't start now. It didn't start with him. Maybe it began when you learned you had to earn attention, prove your worth, secure someone's presence, so you wouldn't be left. And here is the awakening. Loneliness didn't start with the breakup. It started long before. You were just distracted. The relationship numbed it. Passion masked it. But the root remained. Quiet. Until you see the pattern, you'll call destiny bad luck. You'll call repetition coincidence. You'll call attachment love. But the cycle only breaks when you admit it's not about them. It's about what you haven't healed. And that hurts to admit. If you see yourself in these words, this is not random. Maybe this is the moment you finally decide to break the cycle. This channel isn't about empty advice. It's about real healing, deep awareness, and faith lived in real life. If you want to rebuild yourself without losing who you are, click the button right now and subscribe. Because your new story begins the moment you refuse to repeat the old one. At first, you call it love. Then you call it a rough phase. Then you call it a crisis. But in the end, you call it exhaustion. Not physical exhaustion, emotional exhaustion. Deep, silent. You start abandoning yourself, minimizing your needs, silencing discomfort, swallowing questions, avoiding conflict, pretending maturity. But inside, you feel small, smaller each time. The exhaustion becomes routine. You overthink everything. Analyze texts, reread conversations, search for hidden signs, try to predict distance, live in constant alert, and call it caring. But that's not caring. It's emotional survival. It's constant fear. It's disguised anxiety. You begin losing your glow, your spontaneous joy, your natural lightness. Everything feels heavy. The emptiness grows slowly. Even when you're together, even when you're held, even when you're promised forever. Because physical presence does not fill emotional absence. And you know that, but you ignore it. Loneliness becomes identity. You no longer say, I feel alone. You start feeling, I am alone. And that's dangerous. Because when pain becomes identity, you start protecting it, justifying it, repeating it. Then the false solution appears. I'll love harder. I'll be more understanding. I'll prove my worth. But loving harder doesn't fix it. Giving more doesn't fix it. Staying silent doesn't fix it. It only deepens the hole. Another false escape shows up. I'll shut down. I won't trust again. I don't need anyone. But shutting down doesn't heal. It hardens you. It builds walls. And walls don't create intimacy. So you swing between extremes, overgiving or disappearing. But neither extreme heals. Because the problem is not loving too much. It's loving without direction. Loving without identity. This is where it hurts. But this is where it clears. Rejection wasn't the greatest damage. The greatest damage was leaving yourself behind, negotiating your essence, trading peace for fear, and calling it love. You don't leave this pain by waiting it out. You leave it by rebuilding. Healing is not forgetting. It's reorganizing, choosing differently, positioning yourself differently, thinking differently, acting differently. First step, reclaim your direction. Napoleon Hill spoke about definite purpose. You need something that doesn't depend on anyone. A personal goal, a project that's yours, a plan with your name on it, something that restores focus, something that restores identity. When you wake up with direction, loneliness loses power because your day has meaning, your time has value, your energy has direction. You're not living for a text message, you're building a vision, and that shifts your center. Write down what you want for your life, not for a relationship, for you. Where do you want to be in 2 years? Who do you want to become? What skills do you want to develop? What kind of woman do you choose to be? Clarity reduces dependence. Second step, strengthen emotional boundaries. Boundaries are not coldness, they are self-respect. They say, this doesn't work for me. They protect your peace, they reject crumbs. They watch actions, not promises. They walk away when the pattern returns. You don't have to prove your worth. You already have it. You don't have to convince someone to stay. Who wants to stay, stays. Who wants to build, builds. Who wants to love, shows it. Healthy love doesn't demand chasing. It requires reciprocity. When you set boundaries, you protect yourself from excess, from overgiving, from emotional desperation. You observe before attaching, feel before fusing, evaluate before surrendering. That is emotional maturity. At first it feels strange, it feels selfish, it feels distant, but it's balance. You stop being reaction and become intention. You stop begging and start selecting. Practical healing is not magic. It's conscious repetition. It's seeing the pattern and acting differently. It's feeling lonely and not rushing to fill it. It's tolerating silence without abandoning yourself. And slowly, loneliness stops being a threat. It becomes space, space to rebuild, space to know yourself, space to strengthen identity, space to hear your own soul, space to begin again, and in that space, something new begins. Hey, if you got distracted, come back here, pay attention. This is the most important part, because everything you've lived so far was not wasted. It was preparation, and you need to understand that. You thought God was silent, that He didn't see the rejection, that He didn't hear your quiet prayers. But silence is not absence. Silence is invisible construction, internal adjustment, hidden redirection, protection you couldn't see yet. Proverbs says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, not half, not only when it's comfortable. All, including the broken heart, including the disappointed one, including the tired one. And lean not on your own understanding, because your understanding said that person was the destiny. That relationship was the promise. That story was final. But God sees roads you cannot see. He sees endings before beginnings, and He protects you from paths that would destroy you. In all your ways, acknowledge Him, even in the breakup, even in the loneliness, even in the pain. Because sometimes God doesn't take something from you. He takes you from something. He doesn't remove love. He removes illusion, and He will make your path straight. That is a promise, not motivation, not a pretty quote, spiritual direction. He promises to realign what bent, to rebuild what collapsed, to guide you back to your center. Maybe you were loving above your identity. Maybe you were shrinking to fit someone's expectations. Maybe you were calling anxiety connection, and God saw it before you did, and He interrupted it. The rejection you call loss may have been protection. The silence you call abandonment may have been covering. The ending you call failure may have been redirection. Because when you trust even without understanding, God begins aligning what your pain disorganized. Loneliness changes its name. It stops being punishment. It becomes process of rebuilding, process of maturity, process of alignment, process of returning to your identity. And God walks through it with you. You are not behind. You were not forgotten. Heaven did not reject you. You were repositioned. And when you trust even with trembling hands, the paths begin to straighten, even slowly. And this is where faith stops being theory and becomes strength. You began this journey in silence, phone in your hand, heartbroken, feeling rejected, feeling forgotten, feeling small, without direction, without ground. Now you understand. It wasn't just about Him. It was about identity, invisible dependence, forgotten purpose, old fear, emotional fusion. It was about you. Psychology revealed the pattern, the repetition, the self-abandonment, the cycle. And when you saw it, it hurt, but it clarified, and it freed you. Faith brought the axis back. It brought the promise. It brought direction. It brought alignment. You realized God did not destroy your story. He interrupted your illusion. He preserved your destiny. Loneliness didn't disappear, but it changed meaning. It is no longer a sentence. It is space, space to grow, space to rebuild, space to hear your soul, space to mature. You no longer want desperate love. You want conscious love. No more chaotic intensity. You want steady peace. No more proving your worth. You want reciprocity. No more losing yourself. You want to find yourself. Moving on is not forgetting what happened. It's integrating what you learned. Loving without abandoning yourself. Trusting without erasing yourself. Choosing without shrinking. Keeping identity even inside love. You did not lose love. You gained awareness. You did not lose someone. You recovered yourself. You were not rejected by destiny. You were redirected by God. And that changes your story, changes your pattern. Now when someone arrives, you won't fuse. You will walk beside, with identity, with purpose, with boundaries, with faith, with awareness. Because you can change your destiny. You can break the cycle. You can love without losing yourself. You can trust without depending. You can grow without shrinking. You can move forward, not from escape, but from maturity. And this time, you will not leave yourself behind. If this message spoke to you, subscribe to our channel right now. Here you won't find shallow advice, but emotional clarity, spiritual direction, and real growth. Maybe this is the space God is using to realign your next steps. Don't walk alone when you can mature with guidance. Your rebuilding begins with a decision, and if you stayed until the end, write in the comments, I choose to trust. When you declare that, something spiritual shifts inside you. Your faith finds a voice, and God honors hearts that choose trust, even in silence. This may be the first step into your new season,